all my cool projects, all my cool ideas, all my efforts to dabble and evolve and be curious have to be like over here behind closed doors that are like completely optional. Fostering connection through vulnerability, the People Pleaser podcast validates struggles, celebrates growth, and inspires positive change. Together, let's embrace authenticity, challenge patterns, and evolve with compassion. Hello and welcome to the People Pleaser podcast. It's Corey reporting live from a very gray day here in the Pacific Northwest. No rain, but it's a little ominous, and honestly, it's really facilitating a creative energy, a desire to just sit down and record. I feel a little more grounded in my thoughts, and I think that does have to do with energy, like the different energies that the weather brings. I find that I have more extroverted, sort of bouncy energy when it's sunny. Like I want to be doing things. My mind is going a little bit quicker. I'm a little more ADD, like so many ideas, but not necessarily productive. And on a gloomy day like today, I feel like I can just kind of sink in. There's less pulling me. Like I'm not feeling like, oh, I want to be going and doing things. I am actually okay to just settle and sit. So here I am, sitting, settling. I have a coffee. I'm going to try really hard not to slurp it too loud into the microphone. But it's so good. I just got home from a run. I ran 4.4 miles, which still doesn't really mean anything to me as a Canadian, but I think that's around 6 kilometers. And I've been getting into running a little bit again. I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and we set a tentative goal to run a half marathon, I believe in November. And I've ran one half marathon before, but it was over 2 years ago now, which is hard to believe. I love running. Running has been a huge support to my mental health for a number of years now. I actually used to run as a punishment, and it was always connected to weight loss and hating my body. And I thought that that's how I could change my body, which ultimately is true, but I actually never could sustain running with that mentality long enough to actually make any positive changes. And it's honestly for the best, because part of me doesn't want punishment to yield the results that kind of validate my reasons for punishing myself, if that makes sense. But there was a time where I actually was going to the doctor for anxiety, and she just like very, very gently asked what type of like physical exercise I was doing. And at that time I was doing nothing. And we had this whole conversation around like physical activity and mental health. It had nothing to do with my weight, my body image, anything related to like the physiological aspects of my body, which I can appreciate that sometimes people get advice from their doctor to like exercise more, and it's directly related to narrow thinking around body weight and size and how that relates to health. This wasn't that conversation. This conversation was like, you know what? It might actually help with your anxiety if you just kind of got into your body, went for a run, focused on your breathing, got outside, went on some trails, breathe some fresh air. And I've been able to keep that mentality and keep that association with running pretty consistently. And I now know, like my body tells me, my brain tells me, like, it's time to go for a run. Like you need to shake some things up. You need to run some things out. And I just tend to wake up with a like, I need to go for a run today. And I am hoping that I can kind of work myself back up to some longer distances. I've definitely been physically active as of lately, but not really as much of the cardio, the long distance cardio that I was once doing, especially as I got ready to do a half marathon. So that's an update I wasn't expecting to give you, but there it is. The update I want to give you is, well, first of all, or second of all, I had such a great week, almost like week and a half last week and a half. I really leaned into social connections. I really leaned into community, and I just had some like really, really, really good times with people. And I just have to hold that feeling close because it gives me so much information. It gives me so much helpful information around like what I need and what really facilitates my overall well-being. And I just had some like really great experiences. Two of the experiences were just like actually meeting up with friends that I've made locally, and we just had some one-on-one time. One friend and I, we went out for dinner together, which was lovely, and had a really good catch up. And another friend and her son and I all went to the playground and just like hung out and had fun and ate watermelon and chips. And that was just like so revitalizing. I also did two community-oriented things, which were really exciting. One was that I met up with a group of counselors and people who are studying to be counselors or people who are considering going to school for counseling. And it was just a peer support group, an opportunity for us to share different struggles, ask different questions, share resources, share perspectives. And there was a group of 9 of us all together. These were all people that I'd never met before. And it was a couple who hosted us at their house. And I think they host these meetups quarterly, so like every 3 months. I'm not totally clear on that, but I do think I heard that. And it just felt so important and so helpful. And I just left like feeling so bubbly. I was buzzing. I came home and I knew that I was just like feeling it because I couldn't stop talking about it with Brian. And I love that. I love being able to bring that energy home and just feeling like I have something to share that's like new and exciting, and I'm meeting like new people and bringing in new perspectives into our dynamic and our home. So that was really positive. And then through my volunteering at the community gardens, I was looped into this monthly free community dinner that happens like for the summer months into the fall. Like it runs until October. And it's hosted by just like local folks. And a lot of them are working in the farming industry. So all of the food, well, most of the food was donated from local farms, or it was gleaned, which means like people go and pick fruit or pick veggies that either can't be sold or is just like they have too much of it. And they hosted this beautiful meal. It was literally the most vegetables I've ever eaten in my life. Everything was so flavorful and colorful and local, fresh, and I just had the chance to be in another really vibrant community space. We went, like my husband and I went together with our neighbors, another couple, and so it was cool to also like bring them into this space. And yeah, I really just felt so full after that experience. And then my husband and I partnered up with friends of ours and their son, and we went camping. And we ended up only camping for one night. We were supposed to camp for 2 nights, but we did get smoked out. There have been some wildfires in the Olympic National Park area, and so We just made the call to pack up early. The smoke was getting like pretty thick where we were and just wasn't really worth the risk. But we were able to swim in the lake and just like eat food together and have lots of laughs and just get out into nature and feel like connected to this beautiful state that we live in, and just take advantage of some of these summer days together. So I just feel like I'm turning a corner in terms of like confronting some of my loneliness, and I'm really leaning into just like saying yes and being open and not trying to protect myself so heavily from what I perceive as like this long-standing burnout where I've lost trust in my ability to like find that balance of downtime and social. I think that I can safely say that I'm taking really good care of myself. I am almost always getting like a really good sleep. I'm eating well. I have balance on my workload. I balance with school. And so I have created space to be able to like really say yes to these social opportunities. And it's just so great to have these real life examples where I'm like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. Yes, of course, I want to have more of that. That is so, I just feel I'm brimming. I'm brimming with happiness and connection and optimism and hope and excitement. So that is the update from the last week or so. And that's the reason I've been a little bit spotty on here with my recordings. And I just feel like I've kind of abandoned a set schedule, but I still really am doing my best to show up somewhat consistently, whatever that means. I don't know consistent with what, but I'm still here, still putting out episodes. I do also want to share, I did share this on Instagram, but I have opted to move away from my peoplepleaser.pod Instagram account. And this is actually what I want to talk about today and what I kind of want to dig into. How do I start this conversation? It's not that deep. It's just like there's layers. So I'm going to take a little sip of coffee first. Anytime I start a new creative endeavor, I feel like the first step I tend to take is creating a separate Instagram and associated community for that thing. So to give you many examples, this started way back in the day when I had a fitness Instagram account, Coffee Crunches, and that's where I posted exclusively fitness content. I was making chokers and necklaces and jewelry, and that's what was Les Couliers, and that was another separate Instagram account. I went on to create my online thrift store. That was Senya Louise Thrift, yet another separate Instagram account. I had Budget, which was my personal finance account, completely separate. And now I have the People Pleaser Pod, and it's another separate account. And there have been more, but those are just the ones I can think of off the top of my head. And every single time, it's like I get pulled into this passion, into this new project, and I feel like I need to carve out a separate space, a separate identity, a separate community, a separate aesthetic to be able to bring that new project forward and into existence. I need to separate it from myself. And I am right now speaking in terms of like myself as an Instagram person, as someone with Instagram. Because I have always maintained my personal Instagram account, Corey Senya, throughout all of this. I've always had Corey Senya. She has been the steady long-standing account that I've had since I ever got Instagram back in like 2012. She has maintained herself. She has stayed tried and true. She's always been there. She is me. And yet I've always felt like I, as Corey Senya, can't also be Coffee Crunches, Le Coulier, Budget, Senya Louise Thrift, People Pleaser Pod, like as if those things are not also Corey Senya. And I am just really, really sinking into the understanding that I have like gone to all these great efforts to separate out my hobbies, my interests, my dynamic parts, because I have feared that by showing all these parts, by showing these new aspects of my identity or my new curiosities, my new passions, my new ideas, whether those be long-standing or short-lived, I don't want to make anybody question me. I don't want to put myself in harm's way. I don't want to put myself in the face of like judgment or scrutiny. I don't want people to say, oh, what is Corey up to again? Like, what is she doing? I don't want people to judge that, oh, I'm trying something new. I don't want people to judge when that thing inevitably takes a different shape or falls by the wayside or disappears completely, or quite frankly, I'm just over it. I've changed. I've grown away from it. And I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to feel like I have to parse myself out. I don't want to have to pretend that like Corey Senya is this one pure identity with this pure aesthetic and this kind of narrow focus or this narrow scope, and that like all my cool projects, all my cool ideas, all my efforts to dabble and evolve and be curious have to be like over here behind closed doors that are like completely optional. Like I'm basically separating myself away from my community and making myself a choice, making those aspects of myself a choice, which literally has been my intention. And I am now just confronting the fact that like, it's all me. It's all Corey Senya. It's all coming from the same mind, the same intention, the same human being. And I just have all these things within me. I just have all these ideas. I have all these different pursuits. Some of them are whimsy and flighty and not well thought out. Some of them are tried and true and like are going to stick around and are just like, you know, here to stay. But like, I'm so exhausted from trying to manage all of these things and manage the associated judgment that I'm putting on myself, as though like I have to show up in different ways depending on what I'm doing and where I am. And I'm just like bringing it all back to under one roof. I am bringing everything back under one Instagram handle, one account, one persona. It is all me, and it is Corey Senya. It is me. It is Corey. And I don't really know why it's taken me so long to realize this, but I think that, let me just think about that for a second. I'm beginning to understand it as me trying to control outward perception, how I'm being perceived, how people are consuming me. And I'm also basically saying like, take what you want and leave what you don't want. Kind of teeing myself up to have parts of me discarded, to have parts of me optional. And like, ultimately that is true no matter what. Like people can choose to be on board with some of the things that I'm talking about and disregard other things, or just like simply things don't resonate or are just like not relevant to them and their lives. But me thinking that I have to like control and like actively be like, okay, well, I'm into personal finance, so instead of like shoving it down someone's throat as if that's like the reality of what's actually happening, and they then have to come and follow a separate account if they're interested in that, or they have the choice. They have the choice of being like, you know what, maybe I'm not interested in that. And like, I have to also just be super transparent that like my ego has been bouncing around. It's been flipped on its head. It's been punched in the gut. It's been like, and it's all because of my own doing. It's all because I'm like putting myself in these positions to be optional, to be discarded, to be judged, because ultimately that is what I'm doing to myself. I am judging myself. I am shutting myself behind like different doors and squishing myself into different boxes, and not just like letting me be my whole self. And I think that that does come from like a deep sense of like embarrassment, thinking that I am too much. I don't want to be like different. I don't want to put myself out there in a way that could be judged. And ultimately, it means that I'm like lacking sincerity. I'm not being my true self. I'm holding back. I'm concerned about the optics. I'm concerned about the aesthetic. I'm concerned about the relevance. And like, to put all that pressure on someone's sincere identity just means that like I'm creating all these rules for myself, rules that like I'm creating and I don't even know how to follow them. And I was watching this short clip today of an author speaking about sincerity and how essentially like we are all so hungry for sincerity, whether that be to express ourselves in a sincere way or be received with sincerity, and to like take in sincerity from our community, from our friends, like just like really living within that like really real, raw, authentic space. And we're all craving it. We're all hungry for this. And yet we're all embarrassed by it. Like when we see it, we cringe. When we worry that like we're being too vulnerable, we close ourselves up to the world. And I know that like I am quirky, I am funny, I am like very okay with being vulnerable. I'm okay with failing. I'm okay with just like that kind of like raw, unedited version of me when I'm Corey Senya. And what's, I guess, the contradiction is that that's actually, I don't even know if that's true, because Corey Senya also likes personal finance. Corey Senya also hosts the People Pleaser podcast. Corey Senya also like tries random crafts and thinks it's going to be like her next Etsy career. And it's not, because she can't really sustain things like that long term, or hasn't so far. And I know that a lot of this comes from looking outward. And I see the way a lot of my friends, or some of my friends, navigate social media with a lot of boundaries. You know, they either barely post at all, or they've gotten rid of social media, or, you know, they're really just there to consume and not share. And I think that we often, you know, look to our friends, look to our community for like those opportunities for self-reflection. And I've even had people say, like, outright, like, I could never show up the way you do. And unfortunately, I've interpreted that as like, oh, so I should probably not show up that way because that's hard for other people, or other people aren't doing it that way. But I have a million examples of other people showing up in all kinds of authentic ways. And when I really do think about like the scrutiny or the judgment or like the persona that I have kind of dictating me in my mind, it's a few people in my life who have at different times in my life given me really hard feedback. And it's feedback that they were completely entitled to giving me. And yet, like, I have created rules that, like, their feedback is the rule, is the golden rule. Like, when I am vulnerable, when I put myself out there, when I maybe make a mistake, when I make a misstep, like, that's the jury that I have in mind that is, like, sentencing me to whatever punishment I, like, basically am inflicting on myself. And I need to release myself from those people because, like, I have now taken that feedback. I can't even, like, I mean, I have vague kind of recollections of what the literal feedback was, but it certainly wasn't what I've created it to be. And I think this does tie in, well, I know it does, to people pleasing, because ultimately a people pleaser never, ever, ever wants any type of constructive or negative feedback, because we want to be able to be perfect in the eyes of everyone. We want to never ruffle feathers, never make anybody uncomfortable, never put ourselves in a position where we might be judged or misunderstood. Like, we want to be that doormat. We want to be so highly acceptable that it's really, really, really challenging when people don't accept us. When people say, you know, I'm not like that, or I could never be like that, or when you do that, it makes me feel this way. And, oh God. It's hard because, like, I'm a people pleaser, yes. I'm also an extrovert. I am also somebody who repeatedly will say one thing and then later be like, damn, I shouldn't have said that. Or damn, I wish I had, you know, elaborated a little bit more. Or so it's kind of this weird juxtaposition because I'm like constantly putting myself in these positions where I'm like being raw, authentic, vulnerable, in the moment, spontaneous, not well thought out, like just very real, just very in the moment. That's like one part of me. And then there's this other part of me that is hyper critical, hyper judgmental, hyper fearful that, like, I have basically ruined somebody's life, or I've gravely harmed someone or made somebody uncomfortable. And it is just this tricky balance of being authentic and trying to take care of everybody. And something's got to give. Something has got to give because those things just don't match up. I want to be more authentic. I know that for certain. And I know that I will benefit greatly from that stance in life. That I can't pretend that all these parts of me are, you know, separate. They are all me. And it seems so trivial that I'm like kind of deducing it to these Instagram personas, and these different accounts, but like how that's clear as day to me that like, why have I not allowed Corey Senya to just like be the dynamic human that she is? So that's really my first step, is to just bring you all over to Corey Senya. That's CORIESENIA on Instagram. And you will get to experience all the parts of me. I will be promoting the podcast there. I will be talking about home ownership. I will be cooking and making different smoothies and drinking coffee and reading books and going for walks with my dog and showing you different parts of my life that all are me. Like, all these things exist. Wow, that's like so revolutionary. Like, I am a slow learner, people. I do believe that people pleasing comes down to this, like, I'm striving to control myself so that I can be perceived the way I want to be perceived. And in that sense, I'm like sort of trying to control those consuming me, because I'm like giving you these curated teaspoons of my identity, kind of assuming that that's what you want, like making that decision for you. And I just got to trust that you are looking out for yourself and you are going to take me in whatever way you're going to take me. I don't need to act like the world is looking to see me fail and that the world is waiting for me to slip up. I truly have had 90% positive experiences on this planet in this life. And I've let these moments of learning and discomfort and growth and setback take up the most space in how I present myself to the world. I don't need to punish myself. I don't need to shrink myself. I'm not too much. I am just the right amount for who I am. I've only been made this one way, and it's the right amount of me. This was a deeply self-reflective podcast episode. I do try to like tie it into themes that like may resonate with you, and ultimately my goal is to always just stir up your own thought process, your own reflections. And yeah, I mean, I know that there are lots of people who show up online in different ways and share different parts of yourself with the world. And I really respect the boundaries that people have on social media. I think, you know, we all kind of have our North Star or our compass that kind of informs like what feels good to share. And I think ultimately I am just questioning or kind of challenging the rules that I have created for myself. And I'm getting to a point where like I've outgrown them and I need to reevaluate the parameters. And in some ways I may need to narrow them, and in other ways I may need to expand them. And that's just like my raw in the moment reflection of just like how to reconnect with my true self and to own the dynamic human that I am, and to just trust that like I will be received by those who like choose to receive me, and that will be enough, because I already have more than enough in life. I am so privileged to have the abundance that I have in my life. And so at this point, everything beyond, you know, my family and my core community, my friends, my husband, my dog, like my cup run, what's that saying? My cup, I don't know, my cup is overflowing. I wanted to say like it in the old English way, overfloweth. So I think I'll end this here because I am nearing an existential crisis, and that I think can be done in private. But I feel good. I feel clear. I am going to go film a video about how none of my pants fit anymore because my booties just got so thick from all my Peloton workouts. That's where I'm at. And I also have a best friend call scheduled in a few minutes. So that comes first, is a little best friend catch up. And we're going to just take this Sunday as it comes. So thank you for being here. Please follow me on Corey Senya, or at Corey Senya on Instagram. The People Pleaser Pod handle will still be there. The account is still going to be there. I don't want to like just up and shutter the doors because I do reference it a lot throughout this episode or throughout the episodes, and it does take time for people to figure out what I'm all about. But yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be kind of fun to be friends. So I will hopefully see you over there, and thank you for tuning in, and I will talk to you soon. Once again, this is Corey with the People Pleaser Podcast. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. If you like what you heard, please consider leaving a 5-star rating and a review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thanks for listening, and I will catch you on the next episode.